Picture this. It's 1965. Two brothers grow up in the same house, eat the same meals, go to the same school. Their father works the railroad. Their mother clips coupons from the Sunday paper. At 18, both brothers leave home with identical starting conditions. Same town, same opportunities, same nothing in their pockets. By the time they're 60, one brother is quietly comfortable. He owns his house outright. He retired at 62 without panic. He never made headlines and never needed to. The other brother is still working, not because he failed spectacularly, not because of bad luck or bad investments or a market crash that wiped him out. He's still working because of something far quieter and far more devastating than any financial crisis. He's still working because of what he did with his money on a Tuesday in 1972, when nothing important seemed to be happening. This is the story of wealth that history actually documents. Not the lottery winner, not the startup founder, not the inheritance. The boring, invisible, compounding gap between two people who earned the same money and ended up in completely different worlds. If that story sounds familiar, stay with me. And if you want more of this kind of financial forensics, subscribe to Fin Historian right now. We dig through history so you don't have to learn these lessons the expensive way. Now let's get into the 7 habits that actually build wealth while nobody's watching. Before we get to the habits themselves, you need to understand the mechanism, because without understanding why these habits work, they just look like deprivation. They look like suffering. And that's why most people dismiss them. Here's the math that changes everything. The median working household in America today earns roughly $74,000 a year. Over a 30-year career, that's over $2 million flowing through a single household. $2 million. And yet the median American retires with less than $90,000 in savings. What happened to the other $1,910,000? It didn't go to one catastrophe. It went to 1,000 small decisions repeated daily for decades. Each one invisible. Each one seemingly harmless. Each one compounding in the wrong direction. Wealth isn't built through a single dramatic act. It's built through the invisible accumulation of small decisions made correctly over and over, while the rest of the world is busy with something more exciting. The two brothers understood the same income differently. One understood it as a tool. The other understood it as permission. That difference is everything. Now, let's look at the 7 habits. Habit 1. Drive the car you already own for as long as humanly possible. This one seems almost insultingly simple. It isn't. The average new car payment in America right now is over $770 a month. That's $9,000 a year for the privilege of driving a machine that loses 25 to 30% of its value the moment you sign the paperwork. A car financed for $45,000 is worth $31,000 by the time you've made 12 payments. You've paid $9,000 in installments. The asset has dropped $13,000 in value. You are $22,000 poorer than you were a year ago, and the car still has 48 payments left. Here's where history is instructive. In Thomas Stanley's 20-year study of actual American millionaires published in the 1990s, not celebrity millionaires, not inherited wealth, but people who built 7-figure net worths on earned income, the overwhelming majority drove used vehicles. Many drove the same car for a decade or more, not because they couldn't afford new, because they understood what new actually cost them. If you took the average car payment and invested it instead, $770 a month into a basic index fund at 7% annual return, you'd have roughly $170,000 in 15 years. Not counting the lower insurance, not counting the eliminated interest charges, just the raw math of the differential. A typical working life involves 8 to 12 vehicle purchases. The compound cost of choosing new each time versus used is staggering. The car is either building your wealth or someone else's. There is no middle option. Habit 2. Rotate the same meals on a weekly cycle and defend that rotation with your life. This sounds like the kind of advice your grandmother gave you that you ignored. Your grandmother was right. The average American household wastes between 30 and 40% of the food it purchases. For a typical family, that's $1,200 to $1,500 a year dropped directly into the garbage. Milk that expired untouched, vegetables that rotted in the crisper, the ambitious recipe you made once and never returned to, the pantry staples that quietly passed their date. The mechanism behind meal rotation isn't just frugality, it's cognitive efficiency. When you know what you're cooking Monday through Friday, you know exactly what to buy. The grocery list becomes predictable. Impulse purchases disappear. Decision fatigue evaporates. You stop standing in the aisle at 7:30 on a Tuesday night trying to figure out what sounds good, which always costs more money than whatever you had planned. Look at the households that survived the Great Depression with the least damage. It wasn't the households with the highest income. It was the households with the most systematized consumption. They had patterns. They had routines. They eliminated variability in their spending the same way a factory eliminates variability in production. That discipline is not a relic of hard times. It's a mechanism that works in every era. Habit 3. Pay yourself first, automatically, before you see the money. This is the one that sounds the simplest and is the most psychologically difficult to actually execute. The standard financial flow of most households is this: earn money, pay bills, buy things, save whatever is left. The problem is that whatever is left is almost always nothing. Expenses expand to consume available income. This is not a character flaw. This is documented human psychology. When money is accessible, it gets spent. The solution is structural, not motivational. Pay yourself first means that the day your paycheck arrives, before a single bill is paid, before a single grocery run happens, a fixed amount moves automatically to savings or investment. Not what's comfortable, not what's left, a predetermined amount that moves first, every time, without asking your permission. The principle is ancient. The Richest Man in Babylon, published in 1926, opens with the exact same lesson. A part of all you earn is yours to keep. Not the last part, the first part. What makes this habit so powerful in the modern era is automation. Set the transfer to trigger the day after payday. The money never passes through your spending account. The decision is removed entirely. Research consistently shows that households using automated savings accumulate 70% more over a decade than those who save manually. 70% more from one structural change. The habit doesn't require willpower once it's automated. That's why it works. Habit 4. Never upgrade your lifestyle immediately when your income increases. This is possibly the most destructive pattern in modern middle-class financial life, and it operates almost entirely below conscious awareness. When income rises, lifestyle rises with it. The raise justifies the nicer apartment. The promotion enables the newer car. The bonus becomes the vacation that didn't exist in the budget before. This is lifestyle inflation, and it explains why high earners so often die broke. Research from the Federal Reserve has shown that households earning over $150,000 per year save at roughly the same percentage rate as households earning $75,000. They consume more. They do not accumulate more. The income doubled. The savings rate held flat. The only winner was the economy of consumption. The habit that counters this is simple and brutal in equal measure. When your income increases, change nothing for 2 years. Continue living exactly as you lived before the increase. Invest the entire differential automatically on day 1. Don't negotiate. Don't compromise. Don't allow the social pressure of visible success to absorb the gains before they have a chance to compound. After 2 years, you can adjust modestly if you choose. But by then, 2 full years of the increase has already been working for you. And more importantly, you've proven to yourself that the upgrade was never necessary for your actual quality of life. The 2 brothers from the beginning of this story diverged right here, at the moment of the first raise. One upgraded, one invested. Everything else followed from that single repeated decision. Habit 5. Build a small wardrobe of quality basics and wear them for years. The fast fashion industry is one of the most efficiently designed wealth extraction systems ever created. Trends change quarterly. Prices are low enough to encourage impulse purchases. Quality is poor enough to ensure that the item is unwearable within 18 months. And social media creates a perpetual visibility pressure that makes last season look like failure. The alternative, historically documented in the spending patterns of wealthy families across multiple generations, is the capsule wardrobe. A small number of high-quality, versatile basics purchased deliberately and worn repeatedly across seasons and years. The upfront cost is higher. The lifetime cost is dramatically lower. Households that implement this approach typically reduce clothing expenditure by 50 to 70% annually. That's real money. Every morning you spend deciding what to wear is cognitive energy that doesn't go towards something more important. The most consistently productive people in history have understood this. Simple, repeatable choices protect mental bandwidth. The wardrobe that requires no decisions is the wardrobe that leaves you with more capacity for the decisions that actually matter. Habit 6. Make things at home that the market sells you at a premium. This habit sounds like a minor lifestyle quirk. The math says otherwise. Let's stay focused on one example because the principle scales to everything. A daily purchased coffee from a chain costs between $6 and $8. Homebrewed coffee with quality beans costs under $1 per cup. The gap is $5 to $7 per day. Over a year, that's $1,800 to $2,500. Over 30 years, invested at 7% annual return, that gap is somewhere between $200,000 and $250,000. For coffee. But coffee isn't the point. The point is that the service economy is built around selling you convenience at a premium you don't consciously register, because each individual transaction feels too small to worry about. The purchased lunch at $12 to $18 versus the packed lunch at $3 to $5. The bottled water versus the filtered tap water. The delivery fee on a meal that takes 30 minutes to cook. Each extraction is invisible. The aggregate is catastrophic. Historical households that built wealth across generations, immigrant families, farm families, working-class families who sent children to college, uniformly shared this characteristic. They manufactured at home what the market sold at a markup. Not because they enjoyed it, because they understood that the gap between the cost of making and the cost of buying was the raw material of accumulated wealth. Habit 7. Develop a skill outside your primary job and find someone who will pay for it. This is the one habit that doesn't just protect wealth, it actively generates it. Researchers studying self-made millionaires consistently find the same pattern. Multiple income streams. Not multiple jobs in the exhausting sense. Multiple income streams. On average, people who reach seven-figure net worth on earned income have 3.2 sources of income. The additional sources didn't come from working double shifts. They came from monetizing a skill or interest that already existed. Your primary job has a ceiling. The hours are fixed. The raises are incremental. You trade time for money at a rate determined by someone else. A productive, skill-based side income inverts this structure. You control the hours. You control the price. If it scales, the upside is entirely yours. Writing, teaching, consulting, building, repairing, creating, designing. The form doesn't matter. The principle does. Find what you would do for free. Find who will pay for it. An extra $500 per month from a monetized skill equals $6,000 per year. Over 20 years, invested at 7%, that becomes $260,000. From a hobby that didn't exist as income before. This isn't hustle culture. This is diversification applied to income the same way a prudent investor applies it to a portfolio. A single income stream is a single point of failure. The habit of developing a second one is insurance. Now let's bring the 7 habits together and look at what the math actually says when you run all of them in parallel. A used car instead of a financed new one saves roughly $9,000 per year. Meal rotation and eliminated food waste saves another $1,200. Automated savings ensures every dollar captured compounds rather than leaks. Delayed lifestyle inflation captures every raise before the spending mind can absorb it. A capsule wardrobe saves $1,000 annually. Home production habits save between $1,500 and $2,500 per year on food, beverages, and convenience. A monetized skill adds $6,000 per year. Conservative total? Somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 per year in either saved or additional income. $25,000 per year invested at 7% annual return for 25 years. The result is just under $1.7 million. Not from inheritance, not from a lucky investment, not from a high-powered career. From a used car, packed lunches, automated savings, home coffee, the same meals on rotation, quality clothes worn for years, and a skill that someone else found valuable. This is the mechanism the two brothers understood differently. This is why the historical record of wealth built on modest income looks the same in every generation, every country, every economic era. The habits are not exciting. That is precisely why they work. Exciting habits attract attention. Boring habits attract compounding. History doesn't lie about this. The households that built and kept wealth across generations were the ones that systematized boring decisions and protected themselves from the noise of consumption culture. The wealth was always hiding in plain sight, inside the Tuesday morning routines that nobody thought to film. If this kind of forensic analysis of how wealth actually works is useful to you, subscribe to Fin Historian. We study the patterns that separate outcomes, not to tell you what the future holds, but to show you what history has already documented. The pattern is already in motion in your life, in one direction or the other. Every day, you're either compounding toward options or draining toward constraint. The habits in this video are the mechanism of the former. The choice, as always, is entirely yours.